Welcome to the demonstration of the power of embedded Python while using InterSystems IRIS Interoperability. And today, we will share a use case of Mongo CDC change data capture. For the story today, let's assume we have on one side in the organization a MongoDB database, which has various information, including demographics of patients. And on the other side, we have an electronic medical record, an EMR, which is interested in some of this information that's being inserted into the MongoDB. So we would like for when a document is inserted into the MongoDB database, that the EMR should be updated. Now the EMR has a REST API that allows it to accept information and update internal tables in its database. So this organization, of course, uses a leading interoperability platform by InterSystems, which will allow it to take the information from one side and digest it into the other via services, processes, and operations. Now, InterSystems IRIS has a large variety of adapters and built-in components, but I did not find one that can capture changes in Mongo. But here is where the power of embedded Python comes in, because Python does have a package that allows us to do this. It's called PyMongo. So this is what we'll demonstrate today using this capability. Let's start by having a look at the custom adapter that we defined using embedded Python, using this PyMongo package. You can see I defined an inbound adapter extending ens.inbound adapter, and I have my onInit method where the language is Python. This is embedded Python. And I'm importing the PyMongo package that allows us to connect to the Mongo database and define what is called a change stream. So I can start watching. So I'm calling the watch method that allows me to monitor changes within MongoDB. This is in my onInit, and in my onTask method, again with embedded Python, again with the PyMongo package, I'm looping on any changes that have happened in my last interval. And for every change, I'm calling the business service. So this is how I implemented a watcher, a CDC changing, looking for changes and taking them into InterSystems IRIS. This is really the essence of using Python in this case. And let's see the whole scenario, how it works out. So I have a few containers which I started up by running docker compose up. So I have one, of course, including Iris. You see I have several Mongos. That's because to use change streams in Mongos, we have to have a what's called replica set. So I have a replica set of 3 Mongos, which I'll be using. And now I'm going to sort of initiate this replica set inside Mongo. So I'm using docker exec command. I'm logging into the Mongo 1 container, into the shell there. So now I'm in the Mongo 1 container, and I'll be calling the Mongo sh, so that's the Mongo shell. And first thing I'll do is I'll switch into the what's called the admin database inside Mongo. Then I'll be issuing a command to allow me to authenticate. So I'll authenticate into this instance. I'm using some default username and password that I defined within my Docker definitions. So it's admin and admin 123, and it should be okay. Great. And now I'll initiate the replica set. So that's replica set dot initiate. Great. So that's also okay. Now let's take a look at what's happening in InterSystems IRIS. So I logged into the IRIS management portal. And if I take a look at interoperability in my user namespace, I can look at my productions. So I have one production. Let's take a look at it. So I have three components. The Mongo Watcher, that's the business service that accepts the changes from the adapter that we define. So you can see this Mongo Watcher service with the inbound adapter that we were looking at before. This service sends the changes it accepted to a router, and this router simply uh, sends these on to the operation, which goes and updates the EMR via the REST API that it has. So it's a very simple flow, and let's take a look how it works. Just before we run it, you can see that I've defined here a few settings to allow me to connect to the Mongo server and exactly what database and collection I want to watch. So the database is called testdb, and I'm monitoring a collection called testcall. So let's start up our production. Just make sure everything is green and working okay. Everything seems okay also in the log. So now I can insert a document into MongoDB. But before I do that, let's take a look at the database that the EMR is writing to. So I'm using dbeaver to sort of simulate looking at JDBC at this table. So I have a table called patient. And if I click on a refresh, you can see that it's empty. There are no records, no patients in the database right now. So now I will go and create a new JSON document in my MongoDB collection. So I'm going back to my Mongo shell, and I'll switch again to a database. If you recall, I'm monitoring a database called testdb. So I'm switching into that database. And now I'll be inserting a document into the connection called test call, which is the collection I'm monitoring, I'm watching. And I have some information about the patient, the medical record number, first name, last name, date of birth, and gender. I click enter and it got inserted. Now, if I go back to dbeaver, if everything worked okay and I click the refresh, we should see a new record that was inserted. Here we have John Smith was inserted into the database. And if I go back to the IRIS production, I can take a look and see what happened here behind the scenes. So I can look at the visual trace and see the change that came in from Mongo. You can see we have the first name, last name, and so on. We have some metadata also about the change itself, like the name of the database, the name of the collection. Here we have the router that also applied a transformation, transforming uh, this data to the patient message that was sent via the business operation to the REST API. So you can see using this Python PyMongo package, it was very easy and quick for me to implement a change data capture solution, taking data changes from MongoDB into the EMR using the InterSystems IRIS Interoperability production. All of the code in this sample you saw me running is available on the InterSystems Open Exchange with some information in the app itself, on GitHub of the repo for this application, and on a developer community article which provides further details and information. So take it for a ride. Enjoy.